like to call to order this June 30th, 2022 Strongsville Board of Education meeting to order. Mr. Anagnostou, would you take the roll?
Mrs. Bissell?
Here.
Mrs. Cobain?
Here.
Mr. Miko?
Here.
Ms. Stochek?
Here.
And Mrs. Hausum?
Here.
We are all present. Would you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on our agenda is executive session for the reasons of.
To consider the employment and or compensation of a public employee.
Any other reasons?
No, I think that'll cover it.
Do I have a motion?
I think we need some more reasons.
So moved.
I
Do you
just
have
said
a concern?
can we add, what is the other one on there?
Can we add it at the end? Because our posting only had this on.
Oh, yep.
Oh, we had that was the reason
reason
in the
for the
posting?
posting.
Well, then that's all we will discuss during executive session. We'll follow our posting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Still by Mrs. Hausum, a second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hausum, second by Mrs. Cobain. Any discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobain?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes?
Ms. Stochek?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
We will enter executive session at 5:38, and we do expect to return to public session. Thank you. We are going to re-enter public session at 7:08 p.m. Next on our agenda is district goals. Our district goals remain the same: academic achievement and growth, financial prudence, and community engagement. And all our decisions are measured against those three goals. One of my favorite parts of our meeting is recognitions, and we have a few today. Dr. Ryba.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. Yes, we have a handful of outstanding recognitions for our indoor and outdoor track athletes. So I'm going to turn it over to high school principal, Mr. Bill Wingler, to start the recognitions tonight.
Good evening. Excuse me. So I'm going to introduce the head track coach, but I just want to say real quickly, as a parent of multiple track athletes, I often feel that our sport gets a little disrespected sometimes. So I want to say something about Mr. Koval today. Tonight, when we go through the indoor state qualifiers, the outdoor state qualifiers, and the achievements, you know, Chris had a really interesting year. He found out very early January that he was going to be coaching boys and girls. Due to a last-second resignation, Chris stepped up and took over. You know, this is a team, if you come out to the track in the spring, that has somewhere between 200 and 250 kids total. It is a small, actually not small, it's a large machine to run that team. And Chris picked up the slack when asked and did an absolutely amazing job at organizing our track program. And as a dad who met Chris about 6 years ago when my oldest daughter Sarah ran track, and as a former track coach myself, I have been nothing but impressed by the ability Chris has to get kids to state, to get kids to be their best. He truly is one of the best coaches in Strongsville, and I'm really proud. Mr. Ziegler could not make it, which is my benefit, that I get to introduce Chris. So without further ado, I'm going to bring Chris up to talk about the indoor state qualifiers.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wingler. I wasn't expecting that. I disagree a little bit. I don't really think I do much of anything. They do all the work. I just get to point and click, and they get to do all that stuff. So this year, I'm recognizing, as stated, the boys and girls indoor and outdoor track programs. This is the first year that we are recognizing indoor track at this meeting, and that's significant. That just shows a little bit more respect that it is getting more recognized, and that's because it's just really big now. And we probably had over 50 boys and probably close to 50 girls competing indoors. We belong to an indoor league out at Spire Institute that consists of 4 different divisions of 8 to 10 teams. So there's about 40 teams that compete overall. And then we compete in 3 different meets on Friday evenings through January and February. That culminates in an all-star meet. And then of all of that, we have times that are logged, and the state then goes through and takes the top 24 times logged, and those kids get to qualify and move on to the state indoor championship. So this year we had a handful of kids qualify, and I'm going to go through, and as it always happens in the summer, and I think we've tried June and July and August, and it doesn't matter when we do it, someone's always going to miss. There's always a vacation. So we do have a lot of kids. Not all of them are here, but I'm still going to talk about each of them as I go through it. I'll just try to be brief with the ones that aren't here. So first up is Julia Isham. She qualified in the mile, finishing 12th of 20 with a time of 5:14:40. And I'll come back to her. I'll swing back to her in a little bit. Next up, indoor-wise, Sydney Wingler. So Sydney, you can take us a little step forward. Are you recognized? Yes. Sydney qualified to the indoor state meet in 2 events, in the Open 8 and also as a member of the 4x4 relay. In the 800, Sydney finished 15th, and she ran a time of 2:26. And then additionally, she ran a PR of 2:21 at the indoor all-star meet. So that was that precursor to the state meet, where she finished 4th overall. In the outdoor season, Sydney was a leader in the distance events, running primarily the 800s and the 1600s all season. As the outdoor season progressed and a decision had to be made as to which event she would go into postseason, she ultimately decided to go with the mile. And Sydney ended her high school career at the regional finals, running a time of 5:07 in the mile. Now, I don't know if you know anything about track times, but I wish I could run a 5:07 right now. And that was her career best time. And she ended up finishing 6th. And top 4 end up getting to go to the state meet. But a 5:07 time is pretty incredible. And so I looked a couple things up, and I just wanted to kind of relate that to something. So typically that does qualify to the state championship. We just happened to be in a hot region this year, and there was some milers that were just incredible. To put in a little more perspective, our school record is 5:06, and that was set at the state meet, and that person placed 5th at the state meet. So just a little different time there. And then I looked up last year's state qualifiers, and that time last year would have qualified her to the state meet. So it stinks sometimes when that happens, but it is what it is. It was an incredible career. She is a senior. She was elected captain by her peers and coaches, and most importantly, Sydney is also a scholar athlete, and she'll be continuing her academic and running career at John Carroll. Congratulations, Sydney. All right. The 4x4 relay team is not here with the exception of Sydney, so she was also in that. They ran a 4:19 and placed 19th. The other members of that team was Tina Veras, Bethany Perrin, and Vanessa Fabrizi. On the boys' side, we had a total of 7 kids qualified in the indoor state championship. Nick Turner, who is not here, qualified in the 200-meter dash, placing 20th, and he ran a 22:74. And Nick also will be continuing his career in college at Mountain Union. That's actually where he is this week. He's up there for some football stuff, but he's going to do football and track. And I was here last year. I told you the story about Nick with he was in the weight training class and kind of made fun of track all the time. And I just kept challenging him that it's okay. He's not the fastest kid anyways. And eventually it worked, and he came and showed up, and now he's going to do it in college. So I'm excited about that. So, and I think he'll be very good at it when he gets there. Next up, Jacob Lloyd. Jacob also qualified in 2 events, in the 800 meter as well as a member of the 4x8 team, 4x8 relay team. Jake in the 800 finished 19th with a time of 2:02. Outdoor, he ran a career best of 2 flat. And I'll say this again, if I could run 2 laps on the track in 2 minutes, that would be awesome. Can't do it. So Jacob ran a 2 at the GCC Championships where he finished 7th. And like Sydney, ultimately a decision had to be made as to where he was going to go postseason. And he decided also to run the mile. And he finished his high school career at the regional final. So he got through districts, qualified to regionals, and went out at regionals with a 4:35. He was also elected team captain and is also a scholar athlete. And he will also be continuing his academic and athletic career at Center University in Kentucky. So congratulations, Jacob. The 4x8 team, who told me they were going to be here today, but John is also here. So between Jacob and John, there was also Jordan Natitis and Joey Sanick, who qualified for the state meet. They finished 18th of 23. John ran all the distance events this year, from the 800 in the relays to the 2 mile, and he also had to kind of make a decision between the mile and the 2 mile at the end, and he decided to go with the mile into postseason. He concluded his high school career running his season best career, 4:22.63. That's really fast. At the regional finals, placed 6th. John was also a team captain and scholar athlete, and he was co-MVP on the distance side with Jacob. And then Joey and, who am I missing? Joey and Jordan were the other 2 guys. So congratulations, John. And then lastly, we had 2 guys. As we always do, we seem to always find these high jumpers, and Mr. Reese and Coach Martin are incredibly good at developing them and making them incredible high jumpers, and they kind of have some ability that goes with it too. One of them couldn't be here, Mason Birch. He ultimately placed, let's see, where was Mason? He jumped 6 foot and placed 15th at the indoor state meet. He placed 5th at the regional meet outdoors with a jump of 6.3. And then lastly, Andrew Beaton. There we go, step forward. Andrew is our indoor state champion. He won the event with a jump of 6.7. That's a lot taller than me, if that gives you an idea of how high that is. That's really, really good in March. And like everything else in life, there are no real guarantees. And when it comes to the outdoor postseason, we could just say that Andrew chose to have a bad day on a bad day, and he did not move forward to the state meet. However, it does not diminish the career that he put together here in Strongsville as a Mustang. He was our 2022 field MVP. He scored 70 points. He only competes in one event. 70 points in one event is a lot of points. He has a career PR of 6'8", and competed at the Indoor Nationals in New York, where he jumped 6'7" and placed 3rd. He's a scholar athlete, and he's mastered his craft so much that he has decided to continue his academic and athletic career at Penn State. Congratulations, Andrew. You guys can stay there and just give me moral support. So now to the outdoor season. So none of my outdoor guys are here, and girls are here. But the best way to describe our outdoor season is wet, cold, miserable. Not once did the word sun come into play. Actually, one time the word sun came into play. I actually at one point ordered all new rain gear at an extremely better quality because of the number of times that I had to use it. I joke around, but if you come to a track meet, you know I don't usually wear long pants. I'm usually in shorts and a hoodie, and I think I wore pants more this year than I had my entire career. It was rough. All that said, we did have some success at the end of the year. So our outdoor qualifiers were Cameron Durkis, who qualified in the 110 and 300 hurdles. He was our only boy to qualify. We had a girls 4x1 relay team made up of Jordan Lynch, Gianna Upchurch, Paige Fabrizi, and Kennedy Griffin, who ran a time of 49:30. They placed 13th at the state meet. Kennedy also qualified in 3 other events. Qualifying in 4 events to the state meet is impressive. She qualified in the 100-meter dash. She finished 17th. The 200-meter dash, she finished 17th. And in the long jump, she represented Strongsville, standing in 3rd place on the podium in Columbus with a jump of 18 feet 9 inches. And she is also a scholar athlete. And if you know Kennedy, then you know that track is not her main event, as upsetting as that is to me. She is also a gymnast, and she is going to be going to Missouri to compete for them. But she's only a junior, so we get to experience what she can do, hopefully at least one more year. And then the last person I'm going to talk about is also not here, but she warrants a little discussion, and that's Julia Isham. She qualified to the state meet in the 2-mile, where she represented Strongsville, again standing 3rd on the podium in Columbus with a time of 10:48. That is also our new school record. So that's 8 laps on the track, if you're not familiar with it, and that's 10:48. So that's really fast. I don't know if I could drive my car that many times around that fast. But more than that, Julia's done something really cool. She started her own organization called Person Before Sport to aid or bring awareness to athletes and their mental health. And with the help of some of our community members and track family, Julia made her radio premiere on Q104 Morning Show as a C-Town hustler, which is something that they do because of this thing that she does. So there's more information on our track Instagram on that if you want to check that out. But it's really impressive, and I'm excited to be involved with these kids. And I thank everyone for having us here today. And congratulations to all these guys. So thank you very much, and thank you to their parents. Thank you. You go first. Thanks.
Congratulations. 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 Congratulations, Chris.
Thank you.
So on behalf of the board, I just want to congratulate everyone and thank them for coming. Give a shout out to Coach Koval for all the hard work he does. Although he thinks it's not much of anything, it is recognized and it is appreciated. I do want to just share with everyone, one way we teach value to our young children is where we spend our time and how we spend our time. And it always makes me happy to hear examples of young people doing good things and doing smart things and spending their time well. And it always makes me happy when parents bring the younger ones there to see the older ones, because they're going to get an idea of what they can do tomorrow and in the future and set their mind to it also. So I thank the parents for the time they spend with their kids, but also for maybe making or requiring the younger ones to come to these kinds of events, because it's an important lesson that again, where we spend our time is one way to have value and learn value. So congratulations again to our students. A new school record's an awesome thing. That really is. And I couldn't walk it. I couldn't drive it. I couldn't get a golf cart to go that fast. So that's pretty cool. But thank you very much. And again, congratulations.
Mr. Mickel, before we go to public comment, if I could, We also would like to share with the board one of our new administrators we're recommending. So as the board knows, Jamie Bailey was a longtime teacher in our district, assistant principal at the middle school. Her career goal was to be an elementary principal, and sad to see Jamie leave, but we're thrilled for her career that she's going to be a principal for Brunswick, which led an opening for us at the middle school as an assistant principal. So I'm going to turn it over to Jenny Pelko to introduce our recommendation for our new middle school assistant principal.
Thank you, Dr. Ryba. And I'm just thrilled to announce our new assistant principal at Strongsville Middle School will be Brian Sispansky. Brian, you want to join me up here for a minute? So Brian comes to us from Amherst Exempted Village Schools, where he currently is the Dean of Students for 4th and 5th grade. Prior to that, he has been an intervention specialist for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, both at Amherst and Midview Middle School. And I will say, I don't know how you feel, Brian, but our interview process is quite lengthy for these kinds of positions. We review many candidates. We do a screener. We bring them in for 3 rounds of interviews. And I will say throughout that process, Brian really shared the vision that not only we currently have in Strongsville, but was able to speak to the many things that we're doing like PBIS and our teacher-based teamwork, and just has a drive and a passion to kind of step right into those things and be such an asset to Principal Jessica Boydum, who's also here, thank you, and was definitely integral in the whole process of getting Brian on board. So, I think of that, along with his experience with special education, he's really going to be a great addition to Strongsville Middle School. So without further ado, I'll let Brian say a few words to you, and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much to Jenny, to Dr. Ryba. Nice meeting the board. It's great putting faces with names. Yeah, throughout the entire process, we were pulling in tonight with my family, my wife, Michelle, daughter Emma, daughter Ava, son, Ben. Sorry, Ben. And then my parents in the back, Gene and Jerry. But pulling in here tonight was a little bit different this time around because every time I pulled in here was for an interview. But throughout the process, like Jenny had said, the screener, that she told me everything that I needed to know about myself, and I think that was the second interview, but I knew exactly. She told me everything. I'm like, wow, you know me very well from that little screener that I didn't think was, I didn't know how to take it at the time. But I'm just happy to be here, glad for the opportunity, so I thank each and every one of you. Getting to work with Jessica and Tina over at the middle school, I've already been in the building looking around, meeting the janitor, the custodians, and everybody that it takes to run the building. So I'm just really excited to get the school year going and get in there and get settled. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
So welcome aboard to Brian. We're glad to have you here. It is really nice to meet your smiling family, and I can see Mom and Dad are awfully proud of you, and we are too. So congratulations. And Strongsville Middle School, it's an important position, so we're looking forward to having you here. With that said, normally I would tell people that if they have any homework that they still need to get done, now is a good time to escape. But it is summer, so hopefully you don't have homework, but you probably have a book you need to read. And it's a really nice summer day. So if you do need to escape, now's a good time to escape, and we're just going to take a break to set things up.
Excuse me, I don't think your microphones are working. I don't think any of them are working.
John? Scott? We're working? I'll just speak louder. Is that better? Next on our agenda is public comment. I do have one slip from Bev Jones. You know the drill, Bev. Name and address, and you have approximately 3 minutes.
Beverly Jones, 15134 Camden Circle, Strongsville. And I'd like to say good evening. It is so refreshing to see our kids excel like they are. I love this. This is great. I bet you that have seen me before and heard my mouth know what I'm going to be saying tonight. I'm going to talk about CRT, critical race theory, right? No. DEI is what I'm going to talk about because it's diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I'll say I'm talking about this again, even though I called it CRT, but DEI is a little bit different, although it's the same. It's an expanded version of CRT. And this can be more insidious, poisonous, and dangerous even than what I've talked about before. So when I see DEI, red flags go off again. We're looking at some tilt towards historic grievances, gender and sexual issues, and other non-academic topics appearing in the classroom that should be probably discussed with parents at home and not with teachers at school. I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page, that we are here for the academic excellence and the sports. That's awesome. Excellence in our district. And when we see something crawling in that's not about excellence, that it's about division, we need to look at it and we need to fight it. Okay? Now, a few things I've been told from you. I've been told that there is no CRT or DEI in Strongsville School. Yet I have been able to share examples of assignments that focus on it. And I have more. But I only have 3 minutes. So, I've been told that you board members have the right to vote to reveal who supports and who rejects DEI. No such vote has taken place. It was my suggestion. It wasn't something, I'm not going to, complain about it, but I really wish you would. Let us know who's for this and who's not. I was told at the last meeting that our district did not renew the contract for the Diversity Council. And that made me think it was the end of it. But let me read from the Board of Education website, your website, our website, and it says this. The final meeting of the school year was on May 25th. Meetings for the 2022-23 school year will restart in August. That tells me somebody's going to be paying for this. And just a question. I did find that there was a student wellness fund, and I'd really like to have you help me look into this. Will this fund be funding the next push, the next diversity, equity, and inclusion push, the Student Wellness Fund? So I really would like to have an answer to that. Finally, let me read one more line from your website about DEI. And it says this: individuals who are a part of the Diversity Council are working to understand the needs and experiences of students, parents, staff, administrators, and community in relation to diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. To develop a shared vision for this work within the district and create a DEI strategic plan. So, please don't tell me it's not in the schools, because you're planning on putting these things into implementation. So please don't tell me that anymore. This summer, as you develop strategic plans and you put these things on paper and you put them out and you put them in the classroom, wherever you're going to put them, I would like for you to have them to focus on academic excellence, because that's what we have, and we want to maintain that. Please. And we all want academic excellence for our Strongsville schools. Thank you.
Thanks, Bev. Just a couple of quick factual clarifications. We are not renewing the contract with the Diversity Center of Northeast Ohio. That doesn't mean we're not going to have a diversity council. It doesn't mean we're not going to continue to do that work. But we have made the decision that we've gotten the value that we feel we needed to get from the Diversity Center of Northeast Ohio, so we're not renewing that contract. George can follow up with you on how the student wellness dollars are spent. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we did use those dollars for the Diversity Council in the past.
Correct. We use it for the contract this year, and then the dollars for the upcoming school year are being spent to continue guidance counselor, social worker, mental health services.
So-
And I think that covers
But
it.
George will get you the specifics so that you can go through it and understand it. I don't remember the deadlines, but the wellness dollars was I call it a carve-out. It was specifically from Columbus. It was a bucket of money, and we were able to use it for specific needs around wellness. And so the Diversity Council was one of those. You're going to correct me on the details where I go astray, but they're now putting that all in the one bucket that we get from the state. So there won't be, is it next school year or the school year after?
Well, it's this current school year that passed that it's no longer a separate fund, but the ones that came under a separate fund, we still had to use that fund to spend those dollars.
They're
And then we
earmarked.
also- They're earmarked, and then we also, with the current school funding, it's now just lumped in with the school funding within the general fund, but there's restricted lines, and that's a restricted line, and it's now just a minimum requirement that we spend X number of dollars on student wellness.
No. And I'm going to turn it over to Cameron for comments on plans for our Diversity Council for next year.
Yeah, so first of all, it's important to be clear that I started the Diversity Council, I ran the Diversity Council, and we've had a consultant for this past year. We had another consultant prior that provided some professional development, Bev. So to answer your question as, if we're not paying the Diversity Center from Northeast Ohio to provide this service, then we must be paying someone. That's not accurate. You're paying me as a part of my job of what I do, a part of what in my role I've done is to oversee the Diversity Council. So at this point, there's no consultant that is being sought after or paid. We, as Rich said, we've utilized those services to help with the strategic planning work. That has gotten to a point where I feel my skill set will match to continue to lead that work forward in terms of the strategic planning piece of it. In terms of kind of where we're going next year, as I've shared, it's on the website as you've referenced and we've talked about. We have been working and taking a look at what are some vision statements for our school district, what are some goals, and so our focus next year will be on working on some of those strategies to help support. One of the piece of feedback that I would give you on your comments tonight and your comments in the past is you tend to overgeneralize certain things, such as, it started out as, I want to know in a vote for, or is the district implementing CRT? We've all said no. Now we're equating CRT as DEI. We've never said that we're not supporting diversity, equity, and inclusion in our school district. We've said we are not teaching CRT, which is a very specific focus point. And so we stand by that. We can't begin to bridge other terminologies to say, well, that's equitable or that equates to CRT. The other thing that I would encourage you, and for some of the members I think that are here tonight, they've been a part of our Diversity Council meetings. We've spent a lot of time talking about what does this mean for Strongsville City Schools. So what I encourage everybody to think about is reach out, ask, talk to me, participate in the Diversity Council meetings. They're open to everybody to learn exactly what are we doing in Strongsville City Schools versus what are we seeing in the news or afraid that other districts are going that may infiltrate in the Strongsville City Schools. So when we talk about diversity, and in the last meeting we defined what that means for our school district, it means that students and staff understand and respect one another's differences. For inclusion, we talked about that students feel valued, accepted, and heard, that they feel that they belong to as a member of our school community. And I think the one that concerns most people that I've heard about is equity. Because we have this fear that equity means we are going to create victims and victimizers, or we're going to create systems where everybody has a level playing field. But what we're saying is that students get what they need as individuals to develop their full potential. That doesn't say any race or religion or ethnicity is better than another or is given an easier road ahead than others. It's just saying, hey, we all come to this place to school with differences, and we're going to work to make sure that we give our students what they need so that they can reach their full potential. And that's the work that we're doing. So I would encourage you to get engaged with the work that we're doing so that we can base our comments and judgments on factual information of actually what's happening in our school district versus the concerns of what could happen. So what we'll be doing is I've shared with the board some of the draft goals that we have as a part of our strategic plan. I'll be sharing that with the subcommittee groups, and then over the summers, or summer months, probably later in July, we'll put that on the website so the community can see. There'll be a feedback opportunity, and then we will move forward with that work from there. So, Mr. Micko, is there anything else that you'd
The only thing I was going to share is anecdotally, I mean, right now, those words are, there's a lot of disagreement over what the words mean. And you talk to one person, it means this. You talk to another person, it means that. I'll share the story that you related to us where we had some community members that were concerned, and it's fine to be concerned. They got involved, they came to meetings, and then sent Cameron an email and said it resonated with us that regardless of what those words mean for anywhere else, this is what those words mean for us in Strongsville and how we're going to approach them. And so I think the ideas that we just enunciated, you know, that we're going to respect our diversity, that we're going to make sure our students feel included, and that we feel that we're doing the work necessary that every child can achieve to their potential, those are things we all agree on. You know, the students that we commended for their track and field accomplishments, those are the things we all can agree on, and we'll continue to work forward on that. But, you know, sometimes I think you just get caught up, and I get caught up on what do those words mean. You know, because you read one article in the news and it means this, and then you read another article in the news and it means this. But for us, you know, that's what those words mean, and I think that what we've defined works. And going back to that email at the end of it, that concerned citizen said, "I respect what you're doing, and I can support it and go from there." But at the same time, hold us to task. Keep getting involved. Keep getting informed. When you have questions, ask questions, and hold us to task and make sure that what we're doing reflects the values for Strongsville.
And Mr. Micko, one more thing I would like to add, and Bev, you made this comment, and it's a good comment in terms of, you know, let's focus on academics. What I would share with you is, you know, because of what's going on in society, and you know, this, we have a diversity council, so this gets a lot of attention. We have public comments, so there is a feeling that we must be spending a great amount of time in our school district focusing on diversity, equity, inclusion, or social emotional learning. Academics is still 98% of what we focus on and do as a school district. This is an important part, but it's a small part of what we do as an organization. So I understand it can feel like it's a major focus based on, you know, we have a separate committee for it. It's come up in, you know, throughout the year at public comment, but it's important to realize that when we say we need to focus on academic, I can assure you we have the same goal, right? We have the same goal that we are going to continue to grow and develop students, whether it's academically, athletically, in the arts, that are successful, and this is an important piece of it, but a small piece of what we do as an overall organization.
Next on our agenda is approval of minutes. We have the May 26th and June 9th Board of Education meetings. All district video and audio are permanent parts of the minutes, and the board-approved minutes are available on our website. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hausum, second by Ms. Stavcek. Any discussion? Hearing none, take the roll.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Ms. Stochek?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobain?
Yes.
Mr. Micko?
Yes, and the motion carries. Do you need a pause?
No, it's already set up. I'm good.
Next on our agenda is Treasurer's Report.
Thank you,
Mr. Anagnostou.
Thank you, Mr. Micko. I have a series of items for your consideration tonight. A lot of them fall within our fiscal year end, which the last date of the fiscal year is today. So today is fiscal year New Year's Eve for me. We'll be opening up the new fiscal year tomorrow. So with that, I have the item A, the financial report for the month ending May 31st, 2022, which can be found in Exhibit A. With that, I also have our supplemental report, which is also posted on the website, which compares to how we're trending against the 5-year forecast. And since today is our last day of the fiscal year, we've closed down activity a week ago to prepare our final numbers. And knowing that, I prepared this report pretty close to the end of the fiscal year as it trends out the remaining months. So this is close to actual. There has been a few receipts and expenditures still coming in over this week that aren't included, but it gives us a good picture on how we'll end the fiscal year. So revenues are going to be about $365,000 higher compared to the 5-year forecast, while expenditures, we're going to see about a savings of $987,000. So the net impact would result about $1.4 million, favorable to the cash balance. At the end of the fiscal year, in the general fund, projecting to be about $63.3 million cash balance as of June 30th, and it is, as stated, $1.4 million higher than the 5-year forecast, and it would generate an operating surplus for this fiscal year, revenues over expenditures of $9.2 million. Revenue collections in comparison to last May versus this May were about $212,000 less, and as been talking about for most of the year, it's mainly due to state revenue. Although state revenues and net were up, with the change of the funding formula, there were pass-through dollars on both the expenditure side and the revenue side that are no longer included in our district and go directly to those schools that the dollars are being passed through for. So after this fiscal year, when we start next fiscal year comparing to this fiscal year, these numbers will be more apples to apples rather than uncomparable this year. And then overall, year-to-date through May, revenues are about $1 million down. Of that, close to $700,000 is for the state revenues, and then other revenues are down about $600,000, which is contributed against last year. We received close to $1.1 million in workers' compensation refunds and premium distributions back, which were one-time dollars. As stated, the revenues were about $365,000 more compared to the 5-year forecast. Majority of that is coming from the catastrophic cost reimbursement that we received in June, which in total we received about $533,000. We had budgeted or forecasted $300,000. And last year we received close to $250,000. So a significant increase to what we received back as catastrophic cost reimbursements. And one of the reasons for that was the state increased the percentage, but at the time of forecasting it was unknown how much it was going to be increased, because it's based on a pot of money, other school districts filing for reimbursement, and then it's based on an allocation formula based on the number of districts and students that they applied for. And then this represents 11 out of 12 months of the fiscal year, which is about close to 92% complete, and the forecast of the actual of the forecast is about 0.44% different. Any questions on revenues before go to expenses? Expenditures month to date. Expenditures were about $56,000 higher compared to last month. Netted against salaries and benefits were an increase of $182,000 for the month, while purchase services were down about $349,000, which again is compared to the pass-through dollars. And then overall expenses were about year to date about $1.2 million higher. Salaries and benefits were about $2.6 million higher, while purchase services were about $2 million less. And the purchase services, again, it's the culmination of accumulation of the pass-through dollars that we no longer had to pay out. Throwing in June's activity, overall, salaries and benefits were about $19,000 less than the forecast, and purchase services and other expenses are about $968,000 less compared to the forecast, and it's primarily just unspent budget across various lines that, nothing significant, but adding them all up, it just adds up. And then salaries compared to the forecast were about 1.3% less, so. In the August meeting, I'll have the final fiscal year report. But any questions so far? This will give us a good indication of how we'll likely end the fiscal year.
Any questions? Do you think it's prudent for us to start thinking about inflation? So in the next couple of months, we'll probably just have those discussions and make sure we're taking that into account.
Right. So moving on to Exhibit B, approval of new funds. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that new funds be approved as listed in Exhibit B. These are, one is for the new student activity account for the freshman class that's coming in the class of 2026, and the remaining are for our state and federal grants that require a new special cost center for the fiscal year that they fall into. Exhibit C, be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that the transfer of funds in advance and the advance of funds be approved as listed in Exhibit C. And what these make up of are the transfers. We have to cover any negative balances for any funds outside the general fund that the general fund covers. So we had our uniform school supplies that were about $28,000 in the negative, and then our termination benefits fund where we pay out separation payments as employees retire, and that fund doesn't have any revenues. It just relies on the general fund to cover it. Rather than paying out of the general fund, it doesn't fluctuate our per pupil expenditure. We can use this fund to pay those expenditures out of. Other transfers are from the general fund to the 004 field turf fund. When we had initially set up that fund for the turf, in front of the turf, we would take the general fund savings to maintain the grass at the stadium, $35,000 a year, and transfer it to the turf fund. And then also, per agreement with Southwest, over 10 years, we have a savings of the trainer fees to be utilized against the turf fund as well. And then we also have a series of advances to cover year-end cash deficits for grants. The way grants works, they're reimbursable grants where we have to spend the dollars first and then submit reimbursement to the state, which is a month lag. So these are primarily June expenses. We were able to do an advance on some of the amounts, but not in the entirety. It is a little bit bigger this year due to the school bus program where we encumbered those funds of $135,000 for the 3 buses. Now we're just waiting for those buses to come in. Once the buses come in and pay the invoice, we can request the dollars from the state. And these funds that are being advanced, when we receive the funds from the state, will be advanced back to the general fund. So it's not a true expense. It's advancing the dollars of the funds, and then once the return, the general fund receives the dollars back.
Can we highlight Title I EOEC, $4.91?
Yeah, we tried to estimate that, and based on payroll, we had to do the estimate prior to payroll, so we were a little bit off.
But the take-home message is every penny counts, and we count every penny.
Right. And then item D, student activity program, uniform school supplies, public school support, internal Rotary funds, and local grants proposed budgets for fiscal year 23. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that the proposed budgets for fiscal year 23 be approved as listed in Exhibit D, and these are all the student activity accounts and their budgets for the upcoming school year. Item E, amended permanent appropriations for fiscal year 22. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that the amended permanent appropriations for fiscal year 22 be approved as found in Exhibit E. As you'll notice, there's various changes to the exhibit. This is our final appropriation for the fiscal year. A lot of the changes is where we have to knock down appropriations to actual revenues and cash that are available. Item F, fiscal year 23 temporary appropriations. Be it resolved upon the recommendation that the treasurer that the temporary appropriations for fiscal year 23 be approved, which is found in Exhibit F. Tomorrow starts the new fiscal year, and we can either do an annual appropriation or a temporary appropriation. Historically, since I've been here, we've been doing a temporary appropriation. That'll get us through July, August, and September. We have to have the annual appropriations done by September 30th. The reason why I like a temporary appropriation is a lot of the hiring is done over the course of the summer, so it gets us opportunity to finalize hiring to see what our salaries and benefits will be, and then also finalize any contracts that we'll have. So right now, what I do with the general fund is salaries and benefits are at 50%, while supplies, materials, purchase services, and other expenditures are at 100%. And then in September, I'll present you the annual budget, and we have to have that approved by September 30th. Any questions so far? That was all of the fiscal year-end items. All right, so moving on to item G, hometown ticketing and event management software services. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that the board enters into a contract with Hometown Ticketing for ticketing and event management software service per the terms of the agreement found in the exhibit, which can be found in Exhibit G. Item H, the next two items will require a separate vote. Item H, food service management company contract renewal. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that the contract between Strongsville City Schools and Compass USA by and through its Chartwells Division for the management of the district's food service program be approved effective July 1, 2022. The exhibit is an addendum to the RFP. The RFP in its entirety is on file within the treasurer's office, which can be found in Exhibit H.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hausum, second by Mrs. Cobain. Any discussion? So we'll highlight that it is, we're going to continue with Chartwells. They've done well for us for the last 5 years, and we are going to make sure that they do well for us for the next 5 years, 1 year at a time.
Correct. So it's a 5-year, so correction, they were with us the last 6 years. We had a 1-year waiver with COVID.
Correct.
But we had to go out for bid with an RFP process. As we talked about the last board meeting, we did that. Chartwells won the bid, and it's a 1-year contract with 4 renewals. So total 5 years, but each year we have to renew the contract.
Any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Mrs. Hausum,
Yes.
Mrs. Cobain,
Yes.
Mr. Miko,
Yes,
Ms. Stochek,
Yes.
and Mrs. Bissell.
Yes.
and the motion carries.
And then the last one, resolution approving a school district plan pertaining to Emerald Woods. Be it resolved upon the recommendation of the treasurer that a resolution to approve a school district plan specifying the understanding and agreement by and between the Columbia Local School District Board of Education, the Strongsville City School District Board of Education, Pulte Homes, Ohio, and EWGD Development Group, LLC, regarding certain issues pertaining to the residential lots and single-family dwellings in the Emerald Woods subdivision in Columbia Township, Ohio, that are located in both the Columbia Local School District and Strongsville City School District per the exhibit be approved.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Cobain. Motion by Mrs. Hausum, second by Ms. Stavcek. Any discussion? I will highlight that this memorializes a lot of imaginary lines that are very important to the homeowners that are buying those lots, and we put spikes in the ground to make sure we know where those lines are. George, can you add on to the specifics?
Yeah, so as we've been talking about in past meetings, there's a new development in Columbia Township where the old Emerald Woods golf course was, and a part of that golf course fell in the boundary lines of Strongsville City Schools, and that golf course was sold. A development is going in. About 600 homes will be in that development. 90 or so will be in Strongsville City Schools. and hoping when these developments were being built that they would be perfect against boundary lines, but they're not. Of those 90 homes that fall into the Strongsville boundary, those homes are right on the border. 16 homes will be built right on that border, meaning that they'll be in both, part of that property will be in the boundary line of Strongsville City Schools, and the other part of that property will be in Columbia Township. So to avoid any confusion now and down the road, myself and Dr. Ryba met with the superintendent of Columbia Schools and their treasurer, along with feedback from their board president, our board president, and working with our attorneys that to memorialize this, what we've decided, of those 16 homes, 12 of which are about a 50 to 55 split that are in Strongsville schools and 50 to 45 split that are in Columbia homes, that the homeowner can choose which district that they can attend school in. The other 4 homes, one is about 8% in Strongsville, and the other ones are significantly less than that those 4 homes, since Columbia is going to be receiving majority of those tax dollars, that those homes will be a part of the Columbia School District. So that kind of describes this.
Can I ask you something real quick? Did I hear 600 homes total? In Emerald Woods? Not Strongsville, but 600 they're putting in there?
That entire development, yes,
Wow.
it's about 600. 90 will fall in the Strongsville border, but 16 fall right on the borderline that overlap. So this agreement is just for those 16 homes.
Thank you.
Yep.
So the take-home message is if you're one of the 16, pay really close attention. If you're one of the 500 some odd that are fully in Columbia Station, that's where you're going to go to school if you have kids. If you're one of the 80 some odd in Strongsville, that's where you're going to go to school if you have kids. I don't know if how much clarity we've provided, but we are providing clarity. Any other? Take the roll.
Mrs. Hausum,
Yes.
Ms. Stochek,
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell,
Yes.
Mrs. Cobain,
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes, and the motion carries. Any other questions for George? Good job.
Thank you.
They would be out of turn. But George will talk to you after the meeting. Congratulations, George. Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Dr. Ryba, Superintendent's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Miko. A couple routine items. The first one is a contract with Right at School for service agreement for the 2022-23 school year. This is the provider that provides before and after school care at all 5 of our elementary buildings. It's the same contract as we had in place last year, with the addition of, if they have enough students for a summer camp, how the district would receive payment for that, and that could be found in Exhibit J. The second item is the Calamity Day Alternative Makeup Plan for 2022-23. So what this shares is that we have minimum school hours that we need to meet. Half-day kindergarten and preschool, because that's another half-day section, they are right at that minimum standard. And if we have more than 2-ish calamity days, they would be below the minimum school hours. So this says we could use blizzard bags, which is basically asynchronous work that we utilize, and that could be found in Exhibit K. Number 3 is the contingency calendar. This shares specific dates that if we need to make up days because students went below the minimum school hours required, and we didn't have as many blizzard bags, or went beyond the blizzard bag days, or they don't qualify for blizzard bag days, those are the 5 days that we would start to utilize 1 day at a time. Number 4 is the approval of a tuition student. So be it resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that Caden Vi be accepted as a tuition student at Strongsville High School for the 22-23 school year per board policy at the rate of tuition set by the state. So just to be clear, we are not an open enrollment district. However, by law, any school district in the state, students can attend as long as they pay tuition. The tuition is set by the state of Ohio. For our district, it's around like 13,000-ish.
Somewhere in that ballpark.
Somewhere in that ballpark. And so sometimes families that move out of Strongsville that want their children to finish high school with us will decide to pay that tuition, but it does require board approval. Just as a point of reference, Caden was a student in our district last year that paid tuition. This is his senior year, so I'm recommending that he be allowed to continue, pay the required tuition, and finish his educational career at Strongsville. With that, I'm going to ask Donna Holland, our Director of Dining Services, to come up to the podium as she gets ready to share her presentation. Every year, we are required by laws in the Ohio Department of Education to provide an annual report on our compliance with the sale of food and beverage within and also outside of school hours. So, as Donna gets this set up. There we go.
So my name is Donna Holland. I'm an employee of Chartwell's and the current food services director here at Strongsville. And on behalf of Chartwell's, I want to thank the board for the opportunity to continue to serve Strongsville City Schools. So the Ohio Department of Education this is the Ohio Department of Education annual report on the certification of standards governing the types of foods and beverages sold on school premises. So Ohio Senate Bill 210 requires an annual presentation at a public Board of Education meeting to confirm that this district is in compliance with Ohio Revised Code 3313.814, which sets the standards for national standards for food and beverages sold outside of school meals. Ohio Revised Code 3313.814 requires each school district Board of Education to adopt and enforce nutrition standards governing the types of food and beverages that may be sold on the premises and specify the time and place food or beverage may be sold. The standards specified in 3313.816, which are the rules that govern beverages, and 3313.817, which are the rules that govern food, are minimum standards and do not preclude the adoption of more stringent standards by the Board of Education. Strongsville City Schools School District is in compliance with Ohio Revised Code 3313.814, which has three components. The first component, wellness policy compliance. All food and beverages sold on school properties before, during, or up to 30 minutes after the regular school day meet or exceed national standards required by the USDA. No foods or beverages other than those associated with the district's food service program are sold before or during school hours in accordance with the board wellness policy. Standards do not apply during non-school hours, on weekends, at sporting events, off-campus fundraising, although fundraising sales are encouraged by the USDA to support, healthy, lifelong wellness practices. The Strongsville City School District demonstrates wellness policy compliance. Component number 2, the sale and consumption policy compliance. Before school, during school, and up to 30 minutes after the regular school day, no foods shall be sold to students at any location within the building other than the lunchroom sales operated by the Food Services Department. Food sales to staff during the school day and to students 30 minutes after the end of the school day are the discretion of each school's wellness committee. And I will tell you that all items that are sold to adults in this district they meet the same requirements that are set for items that we sell to students. You can imagine keeping 2 sets of stock, how easy that would be possibly to get messed up. So everyone across the board is compliant. The Strongsville City School District demonstrates sale and consumption policy compliance. Component number 3, vending and school store policy compliance. All products vended or sold must be in compliance with the board wellness policy, time and place guidelines. No food or beverages are to be sold or distributed, which will compete with the district's food service program, which may result in fiscal penalties to the district. No foods or beverages shall be sold to students at any location before school, during school, or up to 30 minutes after the end of the school day. The Strongsville City School District demonstrates vending and school store policy compliance. I do want to say we don't have any stores here that sell snacks. Some schools do. We don't have any here. As far as vending goes, there are 3 machines over at the high school. One of them was not used all last year, appears to be inoperable. The other 2 were stocked with compliant beverages, and it's my understanding that they are managed by the student government and are on timers, and so there are no sales from the vending machines during school lunch time, as to not compete with the food service sales. So just a quick review of the current environment in dining services. School year 22-23, we will go back to the customary free, reduced, and paid statuses. We will require families to fill out forms. Those forms have not been required for the past 2 years. Meal claims for 22-23 school year will be submitted under National School Lunch and School Breakfast Program instead of the Seamless Summer Option SSO, under which we've been operating for the previous 2.5 years under SSO. In a normal situation, Strongsville City Schools, because of the low free and reduced percentage, would not normally qualify to be part of the SSO program, but due to the waivers that were in place the last couple of years, we were able to take part in the SSO program and benefit from the higher reimbursement rates in that program. National School Lunch and School Breakfast offer lower rates. It was just President Biden signed on Saturday the Keep Kids Fed Act, which increases school lunch reimbursements by 40 cents and increases school breakfast reimbursements by 15, but 40 cents added to what, 15 cents added to what, we don't know what the rates are going to be for this year yet. Ohio has issued several flexibilities for the upcoming school year. They've issued 26. The ones I've listed here are only the ones that pertain to us. So number 3 through number 6 are for a regular operating school year. Non-congregate meals, we are able to send children to eat in different areas if we need be. The gymnasium or their normal rooms, if for some reason we would need to do that. We have waivers for parent and guardian meal pickup without having the child present. We have meal service time flexibilities in case we need that. And we also have we can change our meal patterns from a serve or off a versus serve to a straight serve if we should need that as well. Number 7 is a waiver for the local wellness or for the school wellness policy that was just updated in April. And normally, without the waiver, we would have to assess that policy by the end of June. The waiver says that we don't have to do that this year, or likely we'll have to do it next year if another waiver is not issued. Number 16 through number 19, those are waivers that have been put in place in case there should be some sort of unexpected school closure for some reason. Number 25, is paid lunch equity. I think George is going to talk to you more about that, so I'm not going to go into detail. Number 26 is a waiver for carryover eligibility. In a normal school year, we would go back to the previous school year and pull the eligibility for the students into the current school year for the first 30 days while the parents are filling out their forms. But because there were no forms required last year, we have a waiver that we can go back to 2019-2020 school year and pull those statuses forward for the students for the first 30 days. So, Strongsville City Schools Dining Services and Chartwell's. We are excited to expand our menus this year after being condensed for COVID for a few years. We will be offering more fresh local produce and more home-cooked items. We will continue to work to ensure ongoing compliance with all ODE and USDA regulation. And we look forward to a school year unaffected by COVID, but we do remain ready to address any issues that arise. Thank you, and may I answer any questions?
Any questions for Donna? I have a curiosity, Donna. What's an RD?
Registered dietitian.
Oh, thank you. I know what an MD is. Now I know what an RD is. And can we find out about our inoperable vending machine at the high school and I can't imagine a out of order sign for the entire school year, but we can follow up on that.
Yeah, there didn't appear to be anything in it for a good part of the year, so.
And we're looking forward to next year, and thank you for everything you do for us.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. Unless there's questions on my section there, we'll turn it over to our operations manager, Steve Bruckner, with his report for this month. Steve?
Good evening, everyone. The first item in business services is a pupil transportation agreement. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the operations manager be authorized to enter into an agreement with Suburban Transportation Company Incorporated for the 22-23 school year for the transportation of special education and handicapped students within the Strongsville City School District to in-district schools and also classes at schools out of the district. Transportation to in-district schools will also be provided for students becoming homeless while attending Strongsville City Schools and now residing outside the district. This agreement is put in place due to the impracticality of transporting these students by Strongsville City School bus transportation, and that's Exhibit L. Also, the second item, district insurance. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the operations manager be authorized to purchase property, inland marine, boiler and machinery, crime, automobile, general liability, and umbrella insurance from Liberty Mutual Insurance Company. And the agent is Todd Associates Incorporated, as endorsed by the Ohio Schools Council at a one-year contract price of $409,872.55 for the period of July 1st to 2022 through July 1st, 2023, which includes all school groups. Last year's cost was $357,659.40. Be it further resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education recognizes the following groups as authorized school groups, and they are in the Strongsville City Schools insurance policy, and includes Strongsville Council PTA, Strongsville High School PTA, Strongsville Middle School PTA, Chapman Elementary School PTA, Kinsner Elementary School PTA, Moraski Elementary School PTA, Sarar Elementary School PTA, Whitney Elementary School PTA, Strongsville Early Learning Preschool PTA, Strongsville Early Childhood Preschool PTA, After Prom Committee, Strongsville Booster Club, the Athletics, Strongsville Hockey Association, Strongsville Music Boosters, the Choral Division, Strongsville Music Boosters Instrumental Division, and Strongsville Education Foundation, and that is all found in Exhibit M. For your approval tonight, item 3 is the elementary building parking lot resurfacing surcharge. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent, the Board of Education accepts the surcharge in the amount of $1,577 for the elementary building parking lot resurfacing project that was approved by the board on January 27th, 2022, and that is found on Exhibit N.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hausum, second by Ms. Stavcek. Any discussion? George? Steve, what is the detail?
The surcharge, and in the exhibit, there is an email or a letter from Vasco. The price of all of their materials, the base price has gone up to the point that they can no longer not offer a surcharge for work that even was approved back in January. From my contacts there, they've never seen increases like they are seeing now. Just as a reference point, if we had not gone after and approved this work to be done in January, it would be $14,000 more right now. Same work, same materials, same labor, but just through materials, the cost of getting the materials, the cost of transporting materials. If we were to go out, I shouldn't say today because that's misleading. If we were to go out about 2 weeks ago, it may even be more today, to be honest with you. That is how often it is changing with prices on raw materials, especially because we're talking about sealing, and we're talking about painting, oil-based products. And we all know when we go to fill up our car what's going on with oil-based products at this point. So while I tried my best to make sure that surcharge did not affect us, I do feel like for the environment that we are in, for the price increases we are seeing, to pay this surcharge and not have to go back out to bid is in the best interest of the district and the tax money that we do spend.
I have no other questions. Hearing none, take the roll.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Ms. Stavcek?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobain?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes, and the motion carries.
The fourth item for your consideration this evening is food services steamer pans for Chapman, Moraski, Sarar, and Whitney Elementary Schools. Be resolved upon the recommendation of the superintendent that the Board of Education approve the purchase of 4 Sterling steamers from Sterling Manufacturing LLC in the amount of $40,603 for elementary building kitchens, funding to be from the food services account, and that is found in Exhibit O.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hausum, second by Ms. Stavcek. Any discussion? Are we going to keep the food warm?
Yes.
That's all I have. Any other questions? Please take the roll.
Ms. Hausum,
Yes.
Stochek,
Yes.
Ms. Bissell,
Yes.
Ms. Cobain,
Yes.
Mr. Miko.
Yes, and the motion carries.
The 5th item under business services is a list of the gifts that have been given to the district, and they are as follows. The class of 1969, through their reunion fund, donated $450 to the Strongsville High School PBIS program. And Dave Lenigan donated an Alexis electric piano, keyboard, and accessories valued at $300 to the Strongsville Middle School music program. The Strongsville High School boys and girls lacrosse teams donated 30 bears and 35 books valued at $812.50 to the district to be distributed among the elementary school counselors for use in supporting students. The Strongsville PTA Council awarded the following grants for the 2021-2022 school year. Chapman Elementary School received a grant to purchase STEAM bins containing materials used for hands-on STEM activities, valued at $475. Chapman Elementary School received a grant to purchase 1 game and 3 books for gifted students, valued at $100. Kinsner Elementary School received a grant to purchase 16 multicultural books for ELL students, valued at $180. Kinsner Elementary School received a grant to purchase a 2nd grade CSI virtual field trip to the Cleveland Aquarium, valued at $150. Muraski Elementary School received a grant to purchase books, board games, and other interactive toys and activities to supplement the elementary counseling program, valued at $280. The SECPTA donated a grant to provide an out-of-this-world tasting station, valued at $550. Strongsville High School received a grant to purchase dry erase German verb charts, a map of Germany in German, and a map of Europe in German, valued at $185. Strongsville High School received a grant to purchase a 3D pen set for the makerspace, valued at $700. Strongsville High School received a grant to purchase Kellogg's Fun Pack puzzles, valued at $30. Strongsville High School received a grant for journalism tripods, microphones, and lights, valued at $415. Strongsville High School received a grant for hands-on tasks boxes to promote training for pre-vocational and vocational student skills, valued at $376. Strongsville High School received a grant for equipment and supplies for the Family and Consumer Science Department, valued at $619. Strongsville Middle School received a grant for a Cricut Maker 3 for the makerspace, valued at $400. Finally, Sorare Elementary School received a grant for popcorn machines and cart to be used for positive behavior incentives, valued at $540.
Any questions for Steve?
That was a great list, and we should thank everyone for it. I think it is really cool that the class of 1969 is giving back to the high school. What is that, 52 years?
53.
53 years, that's cool. And again, our Strongsville PTA Council, thanks to them. I do want to highlight, these are grants. So this isn't just people deciding, hey, this would be nice. This is teachers saying, what things would I want in my classroom to go above and beyond what I'm already doing and address a need that those teachers see for their classroom. And we thank the PTA Council for stepping up to the plate and helping with that. Dr. Ryba.
Continuing on with curriculum, the first 2 items deal with student fees at the elementary and secondary level. So as I share with the board, every year we go through these fees with great detail, ensuring that they are necessary components of daily instruction for materials that students will utilize and keep. And then at the secondary level, where your fees are more based on the classes you take, they have to provide a rationale as to why those fees are necessary. So over the past few years, we've done a really nice job of limiting those as much as possible. At the 2022-23, elementary student fees can be found in Exhibit P, and the secondary fees can be found in Exhibit Q. Under number 3, be it resolved upon my recommendation that the affiliation agreement between Bowling Green State University College of Education and Human Development School of Human Movement, Sport, and Leisure Studies and the district be approved as presented in Exhibit R. Next is a RAS Plus license renewal that would purchase a 3-year license for RAS Plus, Vocabulary A to Z, and Learning A to Z for uses in grades K to 5 for a total cost of $91,135.80. This is a supplementary literacy resource of books that the students can use and a variety of other online supports. Number 5, be it resolved upon the recommendation that the district pays to purchase a 1-year Lexia Core 5 Reading Power Up Literacy Unlimited license for grades K to 8 at a total cost of $71,400. Just as some context, RAS kids and Lexia we've had in our district for a number of years, and they've been extremely beneficial to supporting the literacy development of our students from our youngest learners all the way up to middle school. Number 6 is textbooks for College Credit Plus. As the board knows, but by law, we have to provide and pay for the textbooks that students use in College Credit Plus. So be it resolved upon my recommendation that we pay for the textbooks for students participating in College Credit Plus through Cuyahoga County Community College, an approximate cost of $35,000 for the 22-23 school year. Moving on to the next page, Gizmo Science. That we purchase a 2-year license for Gizmo Science for use in grades 3 to 8 at a total cost of $27,778.50. Moving on to number 8 is Edmentum Solutions. This is the secondary online curriculum that we utilize at an approximate cost of $250 per student per month for the 22-23 school year. Number 9 is for approval for an athletic training clinical internship, that the student teacher be placed for the purpose of this internship at the high school, assigned to Steve Pritchard for the months listed, and this is a student from Bowling Green State University. We do have 2 overnight trips for our hockey team for your consideration. The first is for the team to travel to Sylvania in a preseason scrimmage, November 4th through 5th. That's a Friday and a Saturday. They leave after school, and then they'll compete on Saturday. Transportation will be by the parents' vehicles, and expenses will be paid by the Strongsville Hockey Parent Association. The second overnight trip is for the team to travel to Columbus and participate in the Chiller Thanksgiving Classic Hockey Tournament, November 25th through 27th. A tournament fee of $1,200 will be paid by the District Athletic Fund. Transportation will be by the parents' vehicles, and all other expenses will be paid by the Hockey Parent Association. Any questions on the curriculum items?
Dr. Ryder, I just wanted to ask, the RAS Plus and the Lexia, do students have access to those at night and on weekends, or is that just during the school day?
Nope, they have access to it 24/7.
Great.
Mm-hmm. The RAS kids is pretty much used as you see fit. Lexia, sometimes there will be, you can go ahead, but there's a teacher component that's also a part of that, so sometimes teachers will share, hey, I'd like you to keep pace with in school, but you still have access to it.
And you can use it in the summer, too.
Yeah. Any other questions? All righty, moving on to the student services reports. So I am not going to read every resolution. I'll highlight some of them. Basically what these are, unless different, these are annual agreements for students that have disabilities that need an alternative placement to best meet their needs. And these are just with different groups or different placement facilities. So the first one is with Solutions Behavioral Consulting. Again, this is for the 2022-23 school year. This one includes extended school year to provide consultations for students and consultation and training for staff. In the behavioral intervention services as shown in the exhibit. This is not a placement. This is a contract that we have with a company that comes in and provides support to students with behavioral needs. So that can be found in Exhibit S. Now this is where we get into some of the placements for schools. So number 2 is with the Educational Service Center of Northeast Ohio, that we enter an agreement to utilize their positive education program for the upcoming school year, as can be found in Exhibit T. Number 3 is with the Cleveland Clinic Learner School for Autism, that we enter into an agreement with them for a student with disabilities for the upcoming school year, which is found in Exhibit U. We have another student going to the Cleveland Clinic School for Autism, again, for next school year, and that's found in Exhibit V. Moving on to page 14 and number 5. A recommendation that we enter an agreement with the United Cerebral Palsy Association of Greater Cleveland to provide services of a student with disabilities in the amount of $85,050 for 9-month programming during next year, and $9,450 for extended school years found in Exhibit W. Add alternatives that we enter into tuition excess cost agreement with Add Alternatives for placements of students with disabilities for next school year is found in Exhibit X. So that concludes the placement of students in alternative placements other than the district. We have a number of foreign exchange students that are usually placed by board policy. They don't fully reside in Strongsville, so you can apply or approve a tuition-free admission. So far we have one student from Germany. That's the exchange company that the student is with that will be placed at the high school for next year. And finally, we have a recommendation that we enter into an agreement with PSI Affiliates and Associates in the amount of $73,193.40 for social worker services for students at Strongsville City Schools per Exhibit Y.
And just a correction on that, the funding source says 118 Success and Wellness Fund. It is Success and Wellness dollars, but the fund is the general fund. The 118 is the operating unit within the general fund. So it's general fund, just to clear that.
Okay, thank you, George. Any other questions or on student services? All right, with that, I'll turn it over to our Assistant Superintendent, Jenny Pelko, with the Human Resource Report. Jenny?
Thank you, Dr. Ryba. Under Human Resources this evening, I have many items for your consideration. Starting with E1, we have a resignation of a certificated staff member, resignation for a non-certificated staff member. Under E2, we have the retirement of a certificated staff member. Under E3, appointments for administrative staff. I know you met Brian earlier this evening, but I do want to recognize Nicole Hackman as well. She previously was an administrator at our high school, has served most recently at our middle school as an English teacher, and she's going to become our interim secondary curriculum supervisor at the middle school. And she wanted to be here this evening, but she just got home from Germany, taking a student trip over, and she, I excused her. I said that's okay because I think right now it's like 1 a.m. for her. So she stepped in and helped out with that trip. So we certainly appreciate that, and we certainly appreciate her stepping into this role. She brings not only administrative knowledge, but also such deep curricular knowledge in the areas at the both middle school, having the experience there, and even from being at the high school. So she's going to help lead us and help work on professional development with us, which is going to be a huge help to Aaron and to myself and to our high school and middle school buildings. Continuing, we have appointments for certificated staff. We have appointments for our non-certificated staff, appointment for home instruction tutor. Continuing under E3, appointments for certificated athletic supplemental contracts, non-certificated athletic supplemental contracts. We have appointments for extended school year services, appointments for Kids Link summer program, for our non-certificated staff, appointments for our kindergarten readiness assessment consultants, appointments for our summer learning staff, appointments for certificated supplemental contracts, which will be prorated. And under this item, Mr. Micko, I do need to make a change from the floor. So we have Carla Ganem, who's recommended as a team leader for the middle school. She will be replaced by Mary Jo Ray. And then we also have Kevin Weir. On the following page, Kevin Weir as a team leader from middle school will be replaced by Brian Wilson as a team leader. So there were some just last minute changes. Continuing, appointments for non-certificated supplemental contracts, appointments for certificated supplemental contracts paid upon completion. Under E4, changes in status for non-certificated staff, Under E5, a contract recommendation for certificated staff. It's a continuing contract. Under E6, salary placements for our administrative staff and salary placements for our leadership staff. Under E7, a stipend for a resident educator coordinator, stipends for our teacher-based team coaches, stipends for our technology coaches, stipends for our webmasters for next year. And under E8, security services in collaboration with our Strongsville Police Department. This allows us to provide security services to our buildings for next year and continue that service that we've had in place now. Under E9, we have substitute rates for certificated staff. And then I also have an addendum. So continuing here under E3, we have appointments for certificated staff. Appointments for certificated our English language online services that we were able to provide this summer for many of our EL learners. Appointment for certificated supplemental contract. This one was just an oversight and not added to the original list, which was in the regular agenda. Under E4, changes in status for non-certificated staff. These are reductions in force. And changes in status for non-certificated staff. And finally, under E10, we have one unpaid leave of a certificated staff member for a parental leave. And I believe that concludes my report, unless you have any questions.
I wasn't listening. Can you start over?
The one thing I would like to add, Jenny talked about the security services agreement that we have every year that just gives us the authority to have police officers rotating throughout our buildings. We are finalizing an MOU with the city and the police department in terms of SROs that will be full-time at the middle school and high school next year. It's been a challenge over the last few years with police officer shortages and staffing needs. So that will be, the MOU will be on the next agenda, as well as a comprehensive discussion about school safety. This is something that we're there annually, but if we want to evolve that, this is something that we can do, and we'll start that conversation at July 14th.
And that naturally is on everyone's minds.
Sure.
So it's good timing to start doing that work.
And then the last item is technology, which we do not have any items, so that concludes my report.
Any follow-up questions for Cameron? Next on our agenda is report on Polaris Career Center. Mrs. Bissell.
Yes, we did have a June meeting, and it looked a lot like this one, where there are lots of personnel and kind of things, just general business to take care of over the summer. But I do want to draw your attention to two things, and one of them was Polaris was graced with the presence of David Yost in June, on June 11th. He presented them with the award. It's the Ohio Attorney General's Star Training Center Award. This award recognizes outstanding training programs across the state based on student success, employment, and community police department support. Polaris is the only training center in Northeast Ohio to be awarded this designation. So this was a big deal, and David Yost was here himself to present that award. So there was a nice ceremony. In the middle of the day on June 11th, I had the pleasure to attend and meet David and hear him talk about the award and the great work that Polaris is doing. So I just wanted to point that out, that Polaris continues to achieve in career prep. And there was a big discussion about, there's a seal. So if you ever go over to Polaris now, you'll see a seal. So congratulations to Bob and Ernie, who led that program and applied for this award. So congratulations to them. And then the second note is Camp Discovery. They held their first Camp Discovery, and that's for middle school students for the first time, I think, in about 5 or 6 years. So they're kind of getting their feet wet again to renew the program. And so what that entailed was June 13th through 16th, they had students in a variety of programs for about 2.5 hours, 4 days in the morning. So it was a little mini camp. One of my sons had the pleasure of attending, and he did the CSI, the crime scene program, and he brought me, they were exploring how things decompose. So they couldn't use humans, so they use the chicken. This is truth. So
Why
he
not?
brought me home pictures of this chicken being decomposed over the week, and so I got my share of that for now. But he had a great time. He went with some of his buddies, so I would encourage parents of middle schoolers to check it out again. The cost is very reasonable. It was $60 for the week this year, and lots of opportunities. They have cooking, they have CSA, they've got build your own backyard games, that they've got automotive, they've got salon, hairdressing, you name it, they have it in terms of career pathways. So that was a lot of fun and very successful, and I know it's on the docket for next year. And there is no July meeting, so I will not have a report again for you until August. That concludes my report.
It's great to hear that Camp Discovery's back. I know a lot of people enjoyed it over the years, and it first was paused to do the remodel, and then the pandemic interfered, so it's good that it's back. Our board report on legislation. Haley, did you have any updates? The Ohio legislature is on recess. They won't be back until after the election. We have a primary election on August 2nd, and many of our schools are used as voting or polling locations. So please make sure to vote on August 2nd and in the general in November. And that concludes legislation. Board liaison reports. Laura, do you have city council?
Yes, City Council did have 2 meetings in June. The 4th of July fireworks will be held this Monday evening. The festivities will start at 6:30 on the Commons with inflatables, face painting, balloon animals, and the Kona ice truck. Donations from local sponsors make the fireworks possible. They did do the fireworks after the Rib Burnoff this past weekend, and I've heard it was a huge success. So I'm looking forward to the new location for the 4th of July fireworks. The Ernfelt Covered Bridge reopened on June 28th after it was struck and damaged by a motorist, causing structural damage. Many motorists are very happy now that it is reopened, because I myself use that bridge a lot, and it's hard when it's closed. So we're glad that's back opened. If you missed the city's Shred Day, you might want to mark your calendar for September 10th, when Jardine Funeral Home will be holding a shred event from 11 to 2 p.m. Lastly, I know we talked about this already, but I wanted to mention again 2 renewal levies on the November ballot. The first is to continue to pay for the firefighters and operating expenses at the Preem and Albion Road Station. And the second is for the purpose of constructing, reconstructing, and renovating storm sewers and storm drainage ditches. Again, these are renewals, not new taxes. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Laura. Strongsville Education Foundation, do we have an update?
Yes, we do. The Education Foundation had a meeting on June 9th where they approved a grant for a 5th grade class at Chapman for Wii video software. This is an interactive software to engage with the kids. An example of how the software is used, they had this software in their classroom this past year in a 5th grade class. Students used the Wii video to create news reports of things they studied in class. Rather than simply writing a summary, restating information, they were able to make these news reports and video themselves. It helped with their research and increasing their speaking abilities. So I thank the Education Foundation for approving that grant to continue with that. That concludes my report.
Awesome. I noticed one of our elementary supplementals is going to include podcasts. So it's not just tech, but it's going to also be podcasts, and I imagine video podcasts will be part of that. So that's very cool. Strongsville PTA Council. Mrs. Clevane?
Nothing this summer. They're off on break, and so I'll get back to you. We'll probably start in August, I'm thinking, August or September.
They earned their break.
They sure do. They work really, really hard, those people. They work really hard.
And I'm guessing student achievement is on break, summer break also?
There are no Polaris students of the quarter for quarter 4, we learned. So, yes, we are on break.
Excellent.
Begrudgingly.
Board committee reports. Finance committee?
Yes, the Finance Committee met last week. We met and discussed creating a cash balance policy. The committee was in favor of this, so we will have further discussion at our board retreat in August. We also discussed the potential need to increase our lunch costs at elementary and secondary levels I think that's what Donna was referring to when she mentioned the paid lunch equity. So that will be on our board agenda in July to discuss
Correct, as an agenda, or as a discussion item.
as a discussion.
And then if we need to take any action, the plan is to have it on the first meeting of August to take any action.
And that concludes that report.
Thank you, Laura. Facilities Committee? We did meet 2 weeks ago on Tuesday, and we had, it felt like 2 weeks ago. We did meet last week on Tuesday. We did have a report and an update on our demographic study and went through the numbers and had the opportunity to ask some good questions and get some good information on where we're predicting enrollment to head over the next 5, 10, 15, 30 years. So that's important, and we'll continue that work. And I will place a shout out again. We do need some new members for the Facilities Committee. So I would suggest looking at the calendar and attending a few meetings. And then if you think you can be impactful and helpful to the committee, we'll figure out a way to get you to join. And our next meeting is to be announced. Business Advisory Council. Do we have an update?
Our next meeting is October 7th, right?
Yes.
7:30 a.m.
Yes.
Here.
Kudos to you for planning ahead.
I know.
And
Looks like
they
we're the
are
only
also
one.
looking for people.
Excellent.
Looks
get
like we're the only
involved.
committee that's planned ahead so far.
Next on our agenda is consent calendar. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of the consent calendar at this point of the agenda means all items appearing in the agenda with asterisks are adopted by a single motion unless requested otherwise. Do I have any otherwise? Hearing none, we do have a few corrections. The first correction is Student Services, section number 8, PSI affiliates. That will be paid for from 001 General Fund, Control Account, Success and Wellness Fund. And page 21, E3, Carlum Gannum is not the team leader at Strongsville Middle School. It'll be Mary Jo Ray. And on the next page, Brian Wilson will be the team leader at the SMS. I can read handwriting. Any other discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll. Oh, I didn't do motions, did I?
I was going to say, I think I missed the motion.
There's a reason you missed the motion.
There was a one.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hausum, second by Mrs. Cobain. Any further discussion? Hearing none, please take the roll.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobain?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes.
Ms. Stochek?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
And the motion carries. Next on our agenda is superintendent's timely information. Cameron, how quick can you be?
Oh, very quick. So put it out in my parent update for those looking for school supply lists. They are on the website. If you're just thinking, get used to what you've bought in the past, we did go through these. We did look at things that we thought was no longer necessary on school supply lists, like Clorox wipes and Kleenex. We did take a look at things that we thought was necessary that we as a district provide, and so there should be simplified lists, but those are on not only the main website under Find It Fast, but as well as every building. And again, as I put out there, you will not see one for the high school because of the complexity of all the unique courses. They will share that with the first week of school, so there's nothing critical to start with. Also, as a reminder, as Donna put out there, we do, for students to receive free or reduced lunch services for next year, we do need those forms completed. The new form for the next year will be live on July 5th, so next week. And you can go to payschoolcentral.com to complete that application. And in my various parents' updates, there's instructions to help you complete that application. And as you're checking out Pay School Central or other communications you've received, please remember if you have past fees that are still owed, that you can pay those over the summertime. And there's a web address that you can pay those. Again, those have been in my parent update. And we are just about a couple months away from the start of the school year. So those dates are up there as a reminder. So that concludes my timely information.
Thank you, Cameron. Next is board policies. We have a number of board policies on third reading as listed. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hausum, second by Ms. Stavcek. Do we have any discussion? We'll share that all of these are routine. They are updates to make sure we're compliant with either federal or state law. They're all reasonable and well supported, and I thank the policy committee for their work getting them ready. Any other discussion? Please take the roll.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Ms. Stochek?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobain?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes, and the motion carries. Next on our agenda is Board of Education Other. First, I have a resolution to approve an agreement for employment of Cameron M. Ryba as Superintendent of Schools of the Strongsville City School District. Be it resolved that the Strongsville City Schools Board of Education approves an agreement for employment of Dr. Cameron M. Ryba as Superintendent of Schools of the Strongsville City School District for the period of August 1st, 2023 through and including July 31st, 2028. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hausum, second by Mrs. Cobain. Any discussion? I will share with the community. It does mean Cameron is employed next year, but we're getting a jump on it, and we're going to extend that contract from 2023 through 2028. It will provide continuity to our district. It will provide assurance that we will continue to get better every day and work hard at what we do. And I will share that Cameron earns it through hard work, and we appreciate that, and we're excited about this contract. Any other discussion? Hearing none, take the roll.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobain?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes,
Ms. Stochek?
Yes.
And Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
and the motion carries. Congratulations, Cameron. Thank you. Next, resolution to approve an agreement for employment of George K. Anagnastu as treasurer of the Strongsville City School District. Be it resolved that the Strongsville City Schools Board of Education approves an agreement for employment of George K. Anagnastu as treasurer of the Strongsville City School District for the period of August 1st, 2023 through and including July 31st, 2028. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hausum, second by Ms. Stavcek. Any discussion? I will repeat that George is working for us next year, and this will continue that contract through July 31st, 2028. And again, George earns it through hard work and impact for the district, and we're excited to have that impact through July 31st, 2028.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? They're eager. Please take the roll.
Mrs. Hausum?
Yes.
Ms. Stochek?
Yes.
Mrs. Bissell?
Yes.
Mrs. Cobain?
Yes.
Mr. Miko?
Yes, and the motion carries. We're going to do it again. Congratulations, George.
Well, thank you. Thank you to the board and the community.
Any other Board of Education others? I will share that July 4th is coming up, so please make sure to celebrate with your family. Meeting notification and date change. A regular Board of Education meeting work session will be held Thursday, July 14th at 7 p.m. in this room. And the annual board retreat will be held Monday, August 1st at 6:30 in the we're going to audible that, and it will be at Polaris Career Center in room 201. In room 201 at Polaris Career Center. This is a change of date and location. The change of date is to accommodate calendars, and the change of location is to accommodate the Board of Education getting this room ready for the elections the next day. We do not have reason for executive session. So we're going to cross that out. Time for adjournment. Do I have an emotion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Hausum, second by Mrs. Kilbane. Any discussion? Hearing none, take the roll.
Mrs. Hausum,
Yes.
Ms. Cobain,
Yes.
Mr. Miko,
Yes.
Ms. Stochek,
Yes.
and Mrs. Bissell.
Yes.
The motion carries, and we are adjourned at 8:55. Thank you for your attention, and have a nice evening.